Why is it that every time I set feet on these carpets, I want to go pee? The visual and performing arts are under attack. A war is being waged, and none of us have the right weapons. In fact, the weapons we're trying to use are thousands of years out of date. We need to change our tactics, arm ourselves for the future, and allow a higher knowledge to help us achieve our dreams. My name is Claude Giroux. I'm the managing and artistic director at the K. Meek Center in West Vancouver. And for the last 3 years, I've had the pleasure of being the artistic director at the Keanu Theatre Company right here in Fort McMurray. I have been involved in the performing arts, mostly in the theater, since before I can remember. My first formal theater production was The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I was directed by Mrs. Carolyn Rout, my grade 6 drama teacher, stinky feet, bad breath. I was cast as Smaug the Dragon and the Goblin King. Smaug was great. He even breathed fire through a fire extinguisher while I screamed his lines at the top of my lungs over a megaphone, reverently lent to me for the purpose by our school principal, Mr. Edwards. Man, I was hooked. From then on, I was involved in every single production I could lay my hands on, graduating the high school productions with Mr. Jonathan Rout, who was married to Mrs. Carolyn Rout. No stinky feet, no bad breath. I was even cast as the French lover in a community theater production of Nude with Violin by Noel Coward, opposite Miss Helga Farmuller. 40 years my senior. I got cast because I spoke fluent French, I had 3 lines, and I spent most of the play being fondled inappropriately on and off stage by Miss Farmuller. My love of theater was aroused from there on. I can still hear my father laughing so loud that we had to stop, hold our lines, like Helga taught me. He came to see the show 3 times, and 3 times we had to hold our lines. After graduating from college, I became an artistic director and a freelance theater director here and in the United States, producing, promoting, creating, and selling live theater to a buying public. In the last 5 or 6 years, I've graduated to performing arts centers and festivals, promoting, selling, and putting on live performing arts of all kinds, be they jazz, orchestral, modern dance, ballet, rock and roll, and oh yes, a Kiss concert. Like most of my colleagues, I continue to be concerned about the way my principal occupation is viewed as marginal, at risk, and constantly fighting for its very life. John Steinbeck wrote, "The theater is the only institution that has been dying for 4,000 years. It takes tough and devoted people to keep it alive." Here's the problem. The digital era, which we all heralded in the 1990s as our marketing savior, has actually become so good at what it does that it's actually become our greatest nemesis. It's undermining everything that we're trying to do. Think about this. Everyone that we're trying to reach right now and put in those seats that you're sitting in is receiving 3,500 to 5,000 marketing messages daily. 5 years ago, the average person was consuming just under 21 hours of television and internet per week. 2 years ago, that number ballooned to almost 30 hours per week. And now, a young fella like this one, finishing high school and entering college for the first time, will have consumed over 25,000 hours of internet and television and over 10,000 hours of online gaming. We now live in a world where you can get whatever you want, whenever you want, whatever size you want, whatever flavor you want, whatever color you want, from the comfort of your very own home. Meanwhile, Here we are trying to sell a product with inherent challenges of set times, set places, mostly dark places, expectations of behavior, expectations of dress, parking, distance, dinner, dates. And did I mention the price? At between $40 to $150 per performing arts event, how in the world can we possibly survive when our audience can stay at home and see the very same thing on their computer or television for 99 cents, or more often, for free? Adrian Rich, in his Dreams of a Common Language, wrote, "We have come into a country with no language, no land. Whatever we do together is pure invention. The maps they gave us are out of date by years." The maps they gave us are out of date by years. Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a cultural reformation of seismic proportion. Things are changing very, very, very fast. And just like the religious reformation with the printing press, this cultural reformation with the internet is asking the very, very same important questions. Who should practice? How should they practice? And more importantly, do they need someone, anyone, anybody to help them have a relationship with a higher power? Chris Anderson of Wired magazine wrote, "Thanks to the internet, web technology, webcams, and other technologies, the means of artistic expression has been democratized for the first time in human history." Who in this room right now doesn't have some expression or some example of a creative endeavor that they've been involved in the past that's available to us via the World Wide Web right now? What young person do you know isn't involved in their 3rd, 4th, 10th, 20th creative project that they're going to share with their friends via the internet and with us? But here's the cool thing. While my colleagues and I continue to be concerned about attendance at our visual and performing arts events here and around the world, the actual practice and involvement in creating the visual and performing arts has absolutely skyrocketed. In no time in human history have more people been involved in doing the creative and performing arts than any other time. I've struggled with the notion of how to bring people to our work, and only recently did I see the light and understand that the solution is right there in the problem I just finished describing to you. And that was never made more clear than just a few short months ago when I was involved in a project at Keanu Theater, a project that was born out of necessity to help resurrect a community theater that had become isolated, inaccessible, and badly, badly missing its key ingredient: people. Go ahead! So here's the story. I'm sitting in Keanu Theater in February of 2011, and I'm watching a technical rehearsal for Chicago the Musical. There were 23 people involved in that production, and I came to the very sobering conclusion that out of those 23, 18 of those people would be lost to us the following year, either to graduation, relocation, or transfer. We'd done a very poor job of planning the future. I was planning the 2012 and 13 theater season, and I suddenly realized I wouldn't have anybody to be in our shows, never mind a full-blown musical. So I approached Alan Roberts, the director of the Keanu Theater and Arts Center, and I pitched him a crazy idea. I said, you know what? Let's write our own musical. Let's write a story about this place we call home. Let's interview people. Let's hire a band. Let's get some people involved. Let's do a big recruiting project with this thing. The notion of the project was going to be that even though most people view us as a boom town with an image problem, it's a hometown to those of us who live here, work here, have our families here, buy our homes here, play here, and so on, and so on, and so on. With Alan's terrified blessing, I recruited Michael Beamish to be our co-creator. He would eventually write the script called Hometown the Musical. I would recruit the MGA Church to bring us a fantastic multi-faith choir to the project. I would recruit Kim Hurley and her Generation dancers to provide the choreography and the much-needed injection of dancers to our project. Michael would interview over 150 people in the community here in Fort McKay, in Fort Chipewyan, in Anzac, and on and on. We had no idea what we were doing, but off the cliff we jumped. We didn't know it then, but the simple act of engaging these people in a dialogue and recruiting these people to the project turned into its own self-prophecy of community participation, passion, and engagement like we have never seen before. By the time it was done, over 120 people were cast in this production. Over 150 people came to the theater each and every night to help execute what turned into the most gargantuan theatrical undertaking in Keyano theater history, and certainly in my own professional career. No one will forget the 4 days of simply rehearsing the thousands of technical cues in this production. Over 4,300 people attended the production. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds were turned away. We could have run another week, probably. And they also did this. Con los terroristas. Harlem Shake. Yep, they made their own YouTube video. So far, it's gotten 5,968 hits. Oops. Sorry, 5,969. This entire project has completely changed the way I view the work that I do. In fact, it's completely changed the way I view that all performing arts centers, just like this one, need to be doing. So here it is. We need to get out of the business of creating a product for consumption. We need to get into the business of creating experiences and opportunities for participation. A living and breathing experience where we all collectively participate in what we see and hear. All of our audiences need to be implicit co-creators in an emergent experience where we all control what we see and hear. We need to get our young people, our old people, our professional artists, and all of our citizens together under one roof, working together, creating together, dreaming together, and performing together on our stages. We need to eliminate difficult and daunting audition and interview processes that keep people away from us rather than draw them in. We need to lower our ticket prices. Ladies and gentlemen, say it with me. We need to lower our ticket prices so everybody can come to what we do. We need to keep people active in their learning, a doing that creates ownership. We need to teach teamwork in order to make better citizens more engaged in our communities wherever they are. And more importantly, we need to be constantly conscious of what an audience like you can bring to a live performance experience. Yeah? Buildings and facilities just like this one are enablers of activities, a place where we can all come dream, practice, and play at the arts. I want to leave you with one final image that I really do think says it all. This is one of our youngest, and one of our oldest cast members from Hometown the Musical. This is Madeleine. She was 15 months old when this picture was taken, and a first-time actress. This is Bear, an ex-Marine who runs a nightclub here in Fort McMurray, and he was also a first-time actor. They had what we call in our business a showmance. Neither of these two, in fact, none of our cast members could possibly conceive of going out on stage every night without first sharing a hug and a kiss and checking in. Ladies and gentlemen, in a world where we are all taught to be suspicious of our fellow man, to fear whatever lies around every corner, and to doubt whatever we see and hear, the theater is still a place where we can learn to listen deeply and generously, where we can learn to have empathy, where we can learn to embrace and articulate change, and where we can learn to motivate ourselves and others in order to seek the true nature of our hometown. If there was ever a time in our history where what we do and teach in facilities like this one is necessary and vital, the time is now. One final thought. My favorite TV series is The Newsroom by Aaron Sorkin. In the final episode of the first season, one of the characters talks about a phenomenon known as a greater fool. She says, a greater fool is actually an economic term. He's a patsy. For all of us to profit, we need a greater fool, someone who will buy long, sell short. Most of us spend our entire life trying not to be a greater fool. A greater fool is someone with the perfect blend of ego and self-delusion to think that he or she can succeed where all of the rest of us have failed. These two up here, and every cast member, and every crew member, and every audience member who came to the theater at Keanu College during the production of Hometown the Musical, came to the theater with an open and generous curiosity every night, and when they left, they had love and passion in their heart. We were all greater fools together. And just like the Coldplay song says, the lights will guide you home and ignite your bones, and I will try to fix you. I know what a greater fool is, and if that's all it takes, I'll be one the rest of my life. Thank you.